Hello, everybody. This is LGK coming to you about worshiping together as a family this summer.
Actively participating in worship is something that develops and deepens with practice. Sitting in church is not always exciting for kids as well as adults. Sometimes it's hard to stay engaged and focused, especially when you don't understand or know what's happening. So, how do we keep our kids engaged when we worship in the service with them? One thing I remember about growing up in church was sitting next to my mom and holding the hymnal together. My mom would hold one side and I would hold the other. She helped me follow along as we sang the songs. Even though I might not have fully understood the meaning of the lyrics, I was invited into the worship experience.
Yes, and so like Corinne's experience growing up, it's about inviting your child into the experience. They don't have to fully understand everything that's going on. They just need to feel like worship is something that is for them, not just for adults.
A good way to think about it is to whisper as you go. During a song or prayer, quietly explain what's happening. Like, we're singing this psalm, or this is a prayer that acknowledges who God is. Encourage them to sing, even if they don't know the words. Show them the hymnal and help them follow along. Model how to worship because your kids are watching.
And it's okay if people need to wiggle. I mean, you hear grown-up shifting all the time during worship. Kids are going to wiggle, and that's okay. You can stand up and maybe move to the back if you need to. And we even have a family room if you really need a moment to reset and then come back into worship together. All of these things are okay because we're practicing and learning. When I was a kid, I remember my mom drawing pictures during the sermon, so little picture notes to help me understand what the message was all about or to better understand the scripture. I also, as a kid, loved listening to the choir sing. That was really special, and I developed into a little choir member myself over time. I also just enjoyed looking at the stained glass and how the light shone through. Yes, like behind Corinne. It's just beautiful. And so being in worship and experiencing beauty was all part of my growing up experience.
And worshiping in church was a big part of my childhood too. Every Sunday we were there, sitting together as a family. And I don't remember all the little details, like what songs we sang or what the sermons were, but what I remember is feeling welcome and like I was meant to be there. So let's hear now from others here at church about their childhood experiences in worship.
One of my favorite memories of being a little kid in big church was being an acolyte, lighting the candles, and carrying the crucifix down the center aisle.
I was also an acolyte and got to carry the cross down. My robe was red. What color was yours?
White.
Okay. I think we had a white cape over our red robe.
Cape.
Another one of my favorite things was sitting in between my mom and my dad during big church, and they actually allowed me to stand on the pew when we stood to sing hymns.
And I always sat with my grandparents, mostly my grandma, because my grandpa, my mom, and my dad were up in the choir loft. So I got to sit in the pew and listen to them sing from the church choir loft.
Oh, and I have one more. So every Sunday, I had the little pew envelope to put my quarter in for my Sunday tithing.
What I remember from being in big church as a kid is it was often hard to pay attention, but I would then spend time on the children's bulletins or playing with my mom's hands or just looking out the window.
I didn't mind going to church with my parents at all. It felt like a safe place. There were a lot of old people around, and so it's kind of a privilege to worship with the grown-ups. And I think we probably went to Sunday school sometimes and went to a big church with our folks other times. And being with our folks, that kind of automatically made us stay in line. But when I got a little older, like 8, 9, 10, we began to, a buddy of mine and I would sit right about here up front. We liked to not sit with our parents, we sat up front. The preacher was over there. And I think we were quiet. We might be doing little drawings or something, and sometimes we'd whisper to each other, but it wasn't hard to sit in with all the adults. I kind of liked it.
I grew up at First Presbyterian Church in Colorado Springs, and I remember sitting with my mom in the sanctuary, and it was huge. But what I loved to see was looking up in front, there was stained glass windows all behind the choir loft. And it was filled with such different colors, red, blue, orange. It was really beautiful. I think something I've carried with me from worship throughout my life is the beauty of it. I'm thankful for that.
We're going to have all sorts of resources to help support you and your child during worship this summer. We're going to have a children's message in both services, so you can worship in the traditional or the modern service. We're going to have a kids bulletin that's going to help allow them to follow visually. This is something that they will practice using in part during June and July. We're also going to have information from the preacher to help guide the children through the sermon, perhaps something specific that they're supposed to be listening for. And as usual, and right on track with LGK, we're going to have fidgets for kids to keep themselves busy with their hands. We're also going to be providing some prompts that go along with how to use those fidgets as an option and an invitation. Lastly, we are going to have an area designated in both worship services at 9:30 for LGK families to sit together if you want to. So your family might sit next to your child's friend's family, and it becomes a sweet time of community with also young families.
So as we move into August and practice worshiping with our kids, let's remember it's not about getting it all right and perfect. It's about inviting them into the experience and helping them see that they have a place in quote unquote big church too with the adults.